Well, gentle Jesus, meek and mild no more. The Catholic Archbishop of Sydney, Anthony Fisher, has warned the church may play hardball if religious freedoms are stripped away by the Albanese government. Archbishop Fisher said the church would consider closing 1,750 schools across Australia, quote, if we're told we're not allowed to take religion into account when we employ people according to their ethos of our schools, which is quite the push at the moment. Joining me is tonight's panel, Sky News host and my sparring partner on the late debate, Caleb Bond, and Sky News contributor, Evelyn Ray. Caleb, the Catholic system currently caters for 800,000 students. Now, we know there's this push by the government to restrict the ability of faith-based schools to select the staff they want. The threat to shut down schools that's quite a threat.
It is quite a threat. I suspect it's somewhat of an idle threat. I mean, look, it would be a brave move, as Sir Humphrey Appleby used to say, to just get rid of schools that service, as you say, 800,000 students. But if you were to remove those schools, it would be ultimately detrimental to the entire education system, not least the public education system, because, of course, these kids would need to find somewhere to go. And yes, the federal government gives money to private schools, including Catholic schools. But by investing that money, it reduces the amount it needs to spend elsewhere. In terms of the money it would need to spend in the public system, if all those kids came in, it is more. So yes, Catholic schools, private schools, whatever, they do get government money, but ultimately it saves the government money to prop those schools up. You don't want to deliver any kind of threat to the private schooling system because it would just put more pressure on the government. But as I've said many times before, there's no need for any of these religious discrimination laws. You do not have a law, or there's no situation where you can and cannot hire someone on the basis of religion or anything else until you create a law that says otherwise. If you want religious freedom, and that's supposedly what all this is meant to achieve, you don't create laws. You just let people have freedom. Freedom exists in and of itself. It's not created through laws. And any time you create a law, it puts someone else's freedom over another person's. And that's exactly the problem we find ourselves in here.
Yeah, I've got to pick you up, Caleb. It has happened once. In 1961, Catholic schools closed down over funding issues, and those funding issues were very quickly resolved because our politicians, Evelyn, they might not understand faith, but they understand numbers. And Anthony Fisher seems to be very aware of that. But why this push from Labor to curtail the rights of faith-based schools in the first place?
Look, they do lots of things under the guise of tolerance and under the guise of acceptance, but really what it is control. They like to control things, and, you know, it is a big threat against their agenda when you have independent schools who aren't indoctrinating their students for their woke agenda. I mean, one of the biggest threats to tyranny is a group of people who pledge their allegiance to something greater than the state. And I think private schools are a great forum and a great playground, I guess you could say, for creating independent thinkers who at least have the option to be free from this woke agenda. And I think that's part of the big push. But like you said, James, I think it was in Goulburn, there were only 6 schools that decided to close down. And because of that, there were 2,000 students that were left basically schoolless. They didn't have anywhere to go, and there were only 640 spots available in the public school system in the area. So very, very quickly, the government obviously, towed the line and thought, well, I better actually not put this burden on the public system. And that's all that it takes. It just takes a group of people strong in their convictions and strong with what they believe to be right and true. And it's actually incredibly powerful. Look what happened to Bud Light in America. It was a group of guys that said, I'm not going to tolerate this. And within a week, I think Bud Light lost so much money. And I guess the same principle applies to this. If there are people with strong enough convictions, things can happen. Politicians have to listen. The burden on the public health, the public education system would be too great if all of these Christian and Catholic and private schools decided to stand together.